Welcome to AudioVerse Listening Library, where every word awakens the power within. The most powerful force in human behavior isn't motivation, it's identity. Because once you believe something about yourself, you'll fight to prove it true. The identity shift, becoming the type of person who never misses twice. In this chapter, James Clear talks about how true change begins from the inside out. Change that lasts doesn't come from doing more, it comes from becoming more. At the core of every habit lies a subtle question. Who am I becoming through what I repeatedly do? James Clear reminds us that true transformation begins not with goals, but with identity. Anyone can force themselves to act differently for a while, but unless you change the story you tell yourself, the old patterns will quietly return. If you identify as someone who's trying to quit smoking, you still see yourself as a smoker. But if you say, "I'm not a smoker," your identity has shifted, and behavior follows naturally. Identity-based habits are powerful because they operate at the deepest level of self-belief. Every action is a vote toward the kind of person you want to be. No single vote defines you, but together they create your reflection in the mirror of life. The key is to make each small act a conscious declaration of identity. When you miss a habit once, it's human. When you miss twice, it's a pattern. The strongest identities aren't built on perfection. They're built on recovery. That's why Clear says, never miss twice. Because the difference between winners and quitters is not that one never fails, it's that one always returns. Each comeback strengthens your belief that you are consistent, resilient, and reliable. And in that moment, you don't just do the habit, you become the habit. Identity, in philosophy, is the essence that remains unchanged through transformation. Heraclitus said, "You cannot step into the same river twice, yet somehow you remain you." The paradox of habit is the same. You evolve through repetition, yet find your truest self within it. In Stoic thought, repetition of virtuous acts builds character. Aristotle taught that we become just by doing just acts, brave by doing brave acts. In other words, identity is the echo of behavior, repeated over time with integrity. Thus, habit is not a cage, it is the sculptor's chisel. Each repetition shapes your character from rough marble into definition. You are both the artist and the art. Neuroscience confirms that identity is not static, it is neuroplastic. Each repetition of a behavior strengthens the neural circuits that represent that version of yourself. The more often you act in alignment with a desired identity, the more automatic it becomes. Psychologists call this the self-perception effect. We infer who we are based on what we repeatedly do. For instance, when you say, "I am a reader," because you read daily, your brain encodes that identity, making reading feel natural and self-reinforcing. The never miss twice rule works because it protects these neural patterns from decay. Missing once is harmless noise. Missing twice weakens the network and begins rewiring toward inaction. That's why consistency, not intensity, is the true engine of identity. To understand this in a better way, let's consider a few examples. At first, just think about the runner's return. A runner misses a morning jog after a late night. Instead of guilt, she reframes, "I'm the type who never misses twice." The next morning, she runs, not for fitness, but for identity. Similarly, the artist's commitment. A painter feels uninspired one week, but still sets the brush to canvas for 5 minutes. The art doesn't matter that day. The act does. It's a whisper to the brain. I'm still an artist. In this manner, fitness trainers, business person, labor worker, doctors, engineers, in simple words, any professional, either at big level or small. They keep learning, refining skills, building one habit after another. Some days, the energy dips, but by returning, you prove again, I'm the type of person who always returns. Each act, small or large, affirms an identity stronger than any motivation. Identity-based habits are deeply empowering, but they can also become rigid labels if misunderstood. Sometimes people attach to an identity that limits growth. I'm not a morning person. I'm just lazy. I'm not creative. The danger lies in forgetting that identity, like habit, is meant to evolve. The goal is not to fix who you are, but to expand who you can become. Your identity should be a living story, written daily through your actions. Thus, identity-based habits are most powerful when held with humility. This is who I am becoming, and I am free to keep evolving. In the next chapter, we'll learn how to keep your habits alive, not by discipline, but by joy, through the subtle art of making progress feel satisfying. Moving on to Chapter 12, The Law of Least Effort, where James Clear emphasis on how to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. Have you ever noticed how water always finds its way, flowing smoothly around every obstacle, never fighting, yet always reaching the ocean? What if your habits could flow that way too, effortlessly, naturally, unforced? In this chapter, James Clear unveils one of the most liberating truths in personal transformation. The easier a habit feels, the more likely it will last. We often assume that the people who achieve the most are simply stronger or more disciplined. But in truth, success usually belongs to those who have learned how to reduce resistance between themselves and the actions that matter most. Every behavior, Clear reminds us, is preceded by friction, tiny points of hesitation that drain energy. The greater the resistance, the less likely the behavior repeats. He explains that successful individuals aren't forcing willpower every day. They're quietly engineering convenience. The chapter dives into environmental design, where the surroundings either pull you forward or hold you back. If your workspace is clean and your tools are within reach, productivity feels natural. If your kitchen counters display fruits instead of snacks, eating well becomes effortless. In short, discipline is overrated. Design is underrated. Clear also highlights automation as the ultimate friction remover. The act of programming your environment or systems to sustain good behavior without conscious effort. Automation can mean setting recurring calendar blocks for learning or workouts, using smart home routines to dim lights at bedtime, scheduling automatic bank transfers towards savings. Once a system is in motion, momentum carries it forward, and therein lies the magic. What starts as an intentional habit slowly becomes a background process of life, humming quietly, building your future in silence. Philosophically, effortlessness is the signature of alignment. Ancient Taoist wisdom says, the wise man aligns himself with the way, and the way carries him. When Clear speaks of the law of least effort, he's echoing this same timeless philosophy, that true mastery is not resistance, but harmony. Effortless action doesn't mean laziness. It means removing what resists your nature. The artist paints because the brush feels like an extension of his soul. The musician practices not through discipline, but through devotion. When your environment supports your identity, habits flow through you as naturally as breathing. In this sense, Atomic Habits becomes not just a book about productivity, but a spiritual guide to inner alignment. It whispers that transformation is not forced, it's allowed. Diving into scientific insight, then a famous said law of psychology, the brain's bias for ease. Neuroscience backs this law deeply. Our brain's energy management system constantly scans for the easiest route to reward. Every decision, no matter how small, carries a cost in mental energy, called cognitive load. The brain loves shortcuts. It repeats what feels smooth and avoids what feels hard. When we make a desired behavior simple, for example, placing vitamins beside the toothbrush, we are literally hacking dopamine's reward loop. The brain learns easy, rewarding, repeat. This is why simplifying your environment outperforms all motivational quotes or morning pep talks combined. Modern behavioral economics even measures this as the friction cost. The less friction between intention and action, the more sustainable the habit. It's a mathematical truth, not just a psychological one. A writer places a notebook open on the desk every night before bed. In the morning, writing begins instantly. No startup friction. Over time, those morning notes become chapters, then books. A person who wants to walk daily keeps shoes by the door and a playlist queued up. The mind faces no decision-making fatigue, only action. If you wish to connect more with loved ones, make it easy. Schedule recurring video calls, pre-write birthday messages, or pin important contacts to your favorites. Connection becomes automatic. Install blockers during focus hours or sign out of social apps daily. Increase bad habit friction. You're not fighting temptation. You've engineered its inconvenience. The subtle art of habit building isn't about discipline. It's about making the right choice feel as natural as breathing. For contrast and deep analysis, discipline versus design. Traditional self-help glorifies willpower, pushing harder, grinding longer, fighting temptation. But Clear's insight dismantles that myth entirely. Imagine two people trying to eat healthily. One relies on daily self-control while surrounded by junk food. The other rearranges their pantry, placing fruits and nuts up front. Both have equal motivation, but one faces less friction. The outcome, over time, diverges drastically. Discipline exhausts. Design empowers. The first person burns out. The second evolves. Quietly, consistently, effortlessly. Clear reframes success as a function of design, not character. The real strength isn't in willpower, it's in structural wisdom. Those who master the art of environment sculpt the path of least resistance toward greatness. The law of least effort is liberating, but it comes with a paradox. Too much ease can dull growth. Too much friction can crush motivation. The secret lies in strategic effort, choosing where to place challenge and where to remove it. Growth still requires struggle, but it should be deliberate, meaningful struggle. Make learning, creating, and evolving easier, not effortless. Use this law not to escape challenge, but to channel it wisely. In real-world scenarios, constraints exist: financial, social, environmental. Yet even within limits, micro-frictions can be shifted. One drawer cleaned, one routine simplified, one app deleted. These are small architectural victories that silently rebuild your destiny. The deeper message of this chapter isn't laziness. It's intelligent energy economy. It teaches us to stop glorifying exhaustion and start glorifying efficiency. Ease is not the enemy of excellence. It's the foundation of it. In the next chapter, we'll go even deeper to discover how repetition shapes your identity and how the smallest actions redefine who you believe yourself to be. Discipline fades, but design endures. Which habit in your life could become easier if you simply removed one obstacle today? Share your reflection below in comments and stay tuned for upcoming lessons to grow and evolve richly. Keep listening. Keep growing. Thank you.